It's easy to call for a ride when you're stranded on a night out, but what if you're orbiting above the Earth? Two Russian cosmonauts and American astronaut, they have been left stranded on the International Space Station after a significant leak in their original spacecraft 1 month ago. Well, now Russian space agency Roscosmos plans to send a new spacecraft up to the space station, but not for another 6 weeks. With us tonight is former International Space Station commander and retired NASA astronaut Leroy Chiao. Hi, Leroy. So these cosmonauts have been stranded without a ride home for a month now. I mean, it's one thing, you know, if you're on Earth and you can't find a ride. It's another thing if you're up in space. Their new spacecraft is supposed to launch February 20th. That's another month away. If an emergency were to happen, how would the crew get home? What would happen?
This is something that has never happened before. We haven't faced before, but it highlights that spaceflight is still full of calculated risks. So their spacecraft was damaged, it looks like, by micrometeoroid strike that damaged a radiator, caused all the cooling fluid to leak out into space. The assessment was that they weren't comfortable. The Roscosmos, the Russian engineers weren't comfortable in using that spacecraft to bring home the two cosmonauts and American astronaut Frank Rubio. So they are going to send this other replacement vehicle up. But in the interim, from the time being, from when the problem was detected a couple weeks ago to the launch in about 6 weeks from now, we've got kind of an exposure there. So what would happen if there was an issue and they needed to get down? NASA has been working with the Russians to look at options, but ultimately, if push came to shove, they would probably try to come home in that damaged vehicle. The issue, of course, is that things would get hot. Of course, the crew would be hot, but the bigger issue is that the computers would get hot, and would they continue to operate?
Yeah, we heard from the space station program manager this week on why this damaged spacecraft would be unsafe for crew to return in. Here's what he said.
That piece of hardware will get in the high 30s degrees Celsius. And because you have this cooling, you're worried about inside the cabin and the crew's getting heated up. You're also worried about humidity inside and the hardware operating. Those temperatures would be in an area that would be not healthy for the crew.
So if this crew needed to evacuate the space station and the damaged spacecraft was their only option, how would they navigate these hazards?
Well, the spacecraft does have a number of redundant systems in it. So, even if the main flight computers were to be degraded, there's still down mode options, what we call down mode options, where they could probably get back through the atmosphere safely. You don't want to have to do this, but if push came to shove and the station was in a real state where you had to evacuate, I think you would try to evacuate. It'd be the lesser of two evils, if you would. No doubt they would be overheated and very warm, uncomfortable, but the bigger issue, of course, the electronics inside of that spacecraft. But the spacecraft is pretty robust, and my guess is that it would actually make it back down and the crew would be safe, although pretty uncomfortable.
Yeah, pretty uncomfortable to say the least. So we know the leaks can happen in space, but how common are the more significant leaks like the one that we saw in the damaged spacecraft?
This is a first. We worry about micrometeoroid damage. We've seen it before on spacecraft. We've seen it before on satellites. And the problem, of course, continues to manifest and perhaps even to increase. So we had what we call an unlucky strike in the area of the radiator, caused damage to the tubing, which houses some of the coolant, which caused it all to leak. And so that's why we've got this problem with the spacecraft. I know over the last few weeks, the tests have been done, closing up the hatches to see how hot it's going to get in that spacecraft. And that's what made the engineers uncomfortable, is that the temperature inside did rise pretty high, both for the crew, but also for the electronics.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit more about micrometeorites. I mean, how concerning are they? What exactly is it?
Sure, micrometeoroids are the biggest worry we have for both spacecraft with crew on board and also for satellites. And basically, it's kind of this what we call generically space junk that's traveling around. Some of it is natural, small bits of rock just naturally out there that are flying around at tens of thousands of miles an hour, and most of them like the size of a grain of sand, and they're not too big of a worry. But then there are the man-made pieces, the human-caused junk from spent booster rockets, pieces falling off of satellites and spacecraft, and the odd anti-satellite weapon test, that spreads debris. And so the stuff stays up there a while, depending on its mass and altitude and speed and all those things. But that is the biggest concern for all spacecraft. That's why all spacecraft have shielding, some shielding, including the International Space Station. But you can't stop everything, so we are worried about it.
Yeah, and as the commander of ISS, space debris must be a huge concern. We know the space station had to move its orbit several times because of debris. What do you see as the best long-term solution for this?
Well, the long-term solution, new satellite makers are making their satellites smarter, especially the ones in low Earth orbit. They are being designed to actually deorbit themselves in a controlled manner with remaining fuel instead of just being derelicts up there floating around out of control. And so in other words, they're being brought down. They're bringing themselves down in a controlled manner, making sure that, they burn up in the atmosphere, and anything that survives stays away from major cities and shipping lanes and things like that. So that's part of the solution. There have been different proposals of how to clean up space junk. Frankly, none of them, to me, have been really very viable. But the stuff will eventually come down on its own by and large, but it takes time. And the problem is, of course, if you keep generating more, and hopefully more people will adopt kind of these smart designs, then hopefully we can reduce the total amount of stuff up there.
We hope so. Leroy Chow, great to see you. Thank you for your time tonight. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Also.